Prepper here today on the channel. I have a special guest once again, and as you guys can see, we got all different kinds of money in front of us. We're going to be talking about the evolution of money. We're going to talk about what exactly money is and what barter is and what role all of this stuff is going to play in a SHTF situation. I invited my friend Dean from the Arcopia YouTube channel. He's a prepper, a coin and precious metals connoisseur, and he's here to talk all about how we're going to make use of these things if and when the worst happens. So let's get to it.
The love of money is the root of all evil, the love of it. But money itself is an important thing for just economic exchange in general. Yeah. Proof of work, being able to trade and barter. Actually, barter, like you don't even really need money. Barter is essentially doing a transaction, but money, it would be a universal barter item. So for instance, if I had a little thing of booze, but oh, you don't drink alcohol, so you don't want this, well, that's not going to be very good trade, right? Or if you don't smoke, or if you're not a carpenter and don't need some screws, it's going to be hard for us to make a trade. So you need something universal as a universal barter item.
You need that medium of exchange. I drew up this thing here, very much similar to what you just said. For me, money is just a representation of time, energy, material, and labor. So you have, let's say a guy goes and plants a garden and he pulls some potatoes out of the garden. And let's say you are brewing some beer at your place. Maybe I don't need beer this time, but I need something that can capture like that proof of work, that the amount of labor that, I put into my growing the food is going to be represented somehow when I give it to you. So we invent this thing called money. So like you said, at the beginning of time, people just traded. And that was a very primitive mode of exchanging one good for another. And this allowed for some specialization and complexity in society. And as we move forward here in our evolution, things get more and more complicated. There was a time when gold or silver, I guess, or precious metals in general, were the main medium of exchange. And gold signified proof of work, and because of its rarity and its other, like its fungibility and its
longevity too, it lasts forever. Like you could drop a gold coin in the bottom of the ocean and 50,000 years later it's the same gold coin. So other commodities can tarnish and depreciate, or ammunition could go bad, booze could go bad, things could rust away. So it's got rarity. It has to be mined and refined. There's proof of work there. And its use cases as well. Gold has the most uses of anything on the periodic table, I guess. Mm-hmm. So if gold was way cheaper, we would use gold in many different things.
And it's also very denominational too.
That's right, yeah, for sure.
What is it? You can stretch 1 ounce of gold into like a 50-yard piece of paper or something like that, or
but I mean, like for instance, this is a 1 ounce Canadian maple leaf. Mm-hmm. So this has a value today of, I don't know, gold shot up so much with the bank collapses, but
let's just take a look at that. While you said that, let's see what gold's at. Look at this. Gold is up 3.36% today.
Oh, and climbing, yeah. So just about 2,000.
People are freaking out right now.
It's about time, yeah. All it took was the second and largest bank collapsing to...
We've been saying this, guys. Like, we've been saying this for years. So here we are. Sorry, cut you off there.
No, that's right. But this is a high value in a small package, right? So you could have 10 of these in your pocket and go buy a car with it, right? Yeah. So for me, there's two monetary metals, essentially. Is gold and silver. Those are the monetary metals. Now, you could also argue nickel and copper have also been used as monetary metals, but essentially gold and silver are monetary.
Basically, the ones that you can buy at the exchanges are copper, silver, gold, platinum, and palladium. Those are like the core ones, right? Most of those are represented here with the exception of copper. You introduced this to me the other day. This is a copper coin. What is the street value of that?
So that's 1 ounce copper bullion. So it's 1 ounce of copper is its intrinsic value, whatever that is for copper, but it has a high premium over the spot price of copper. So I'm not a huge fan of that just because of the premium. It's just like, for instance, this would be more of a numismatic silver coin.
Numismatic?
Okay, so okay.
What does numismatic mean for us idiots?
All right, numismatic is the price over the commodity. So because of this rarity and brilliance in the making of it, it's like an art piece. You're paying a significant premium over spot. Now, you don't want to do that. So this would have a premium over the spot price of copper, whereas just your standard bullion, like something like this, has a low premium. Yeah. So you're paying the commodity silver plus a tiny premium. Same with just your more standard bullions, like this would have a lower premium. The Canadian silver maple leaf is decent, and this is actually the best world-renowned coin on the market. It's recognized. You could take it anywhere in the world. They know what that is.
Like, as preppers, we're concerned with melt value. When I see people like these coin collectors, oh, I got this one and that one, I don't care about that. I care about what is the value when I melt this thing down.
That's right. We don't want to turn into stamp collectors and Pokemon collectors, card collectors. We're trying to stack the commodity, essentially, the money aspect.
And that's what you say about copper. You're better off maybe going and buying some copper tubing from Home Depot or something.
That's right. Yeah, scrap copper fittings if you can get that close to the spot price of copper. But another cool thing, these are some pre 1996 Canadian pennies that are pure copper until they switched it and took the commodity out of the actual money.
Yeah.
So each one of these pennies now is currently worth 3 cents Canadian. So if you find a penny from pre-1996, it's actually worth 3 pennies in the value of copper. And the same goes for nickels. The old nickels, they were called nickels because they're made of, guess what, nickel, the commodity. And pre-1981, each one of these nickels today in nickel value is currently worth 15 cents. So if you're bored or you have kids and want something to do, you can go nickel hunting through a roll of nickels, just like when they took money out of the currency in the 60s for silver. People would go silver hunting or roll hunting, try to find that quarter that's
what they call junk silver, right?
That's right. That was our old currency. So here I have a proof set. I like this for teaching purposes and even just for my boys, but this is a proof set of what we had as money in Canada. This one's from 1964, but essentially in 1966 was the last year of real money, so silver in the coinage. Yeah. So this is a dollar, a half dollar, a quarter, and a dime, and those are all 80% silver. And the nickel is actually nickel, and the penny is actually copper. So this is real money.
Yeah. So if you melted that all down, it would be worth a lot more than the nominal value.
That's right. So this is a dollar, but the value of the troy ounces of silver in there, the 80% silver, is $18.50 Canadian, the spot price for one of those. Now, what's nice about this, like currency back in the day, the silver, there's a reason why that they're a size that they are. So 10 dimes is the same silver content as a dollar. 2 half dollars is the same silver content of this. So you can change. So as a preparedness, or if we go hyperinflation route or something, you can, hey, do you got change for a dollar, a silver dollar? Yes, I do. Would you like 4 quarters, 2 of these, or 10 of those?
I guess the only problem with that would be, how do you know what's silver and what's like how can you tell if this is silver versus is it the weight, is it the shine, the sheen, what is it?
So this is something that has a low enough value that there's no real counterfeits with those, and they are government issued money, like back when it was money, and there is a date on it. So these say 1964. Now, past that, you can get, there's different ways to test for silver. There's a machine called a Sigma Metals Verifier that many brokers have. I've been thinking about getting one myself just to.
How much does one of those machines go for?
They're, I think, $1,400 or $1,500. So unless you got a bunch of money, I'd suggest if you're looking to make a purchase, find a local dealer, somebody reputable first to get a little bit. But if you happen to be stacking piles, eventually maybe you get your own machine if that's where you are in life. But
for sure. So what we have laid out here, I don't have a lot of precious metals. It's only something I've recently kind of made a foray into. And so pretty much what I have is here, and I got some gold backs, of course. This is something we've done on the channel before. I think you were in that video, actually. This is a $50 gold back, which is actually worth it's technically $50 melt value gold, but there's a premium, a very high premium on that. Then we have our copper, our silver bars, silver combi bar, and this is our denominational gold. So we have the Volcambi bars, so if you want like a 5-gram gold, this is a 1 ounce gold bar. And then of course we have platinum. So I just got this platinum coin. It looks very much like silver, but it's a lot more expensive. So I think it's slightly less expensive than gold right now. But
and then platinum is a precious metal, but I'm not so sure that it's a monetary metal like gold and silver, but it is a platinum coin. It has that value.
It's rare, and something I didn't even realize the other day was that all of the precious metals are in the same place on the periodic table, and it's because apparently, and I'm probably gonna screw this up, but they all have the same amount of valence electrons. Let me ask you a philosophical question. Okay. If gold, because some people have theories of gold. You know how they don't know where Bitcoin came from? Satoshi, who's Satoshi? Well, the same thing with gold. They really don't know how the gold got here. They say it came here from like an asteroid, it hit the planet and it distributed everywhere. But wouldn't that be wild and this is why I sometimes believe in simulation theory, because how could our monetary system, if we look at money, right? We start with bartering, it goes to gold and silver. How would our monetary system evolve without gold? Without gold and silver, without precious metals? What do you think we would use?
Some other rare commodity. So again, money is just a universal barter item, and gold is valued because of its longevity. It never goes bad. Its rarity on the planet and its uses. So it exists.
But you see what I'm saying though? It's perfect because it's rare, like you said.
Yeah.
It's corrosion resistant, lasts forever. It's denominational. Like it's, if you ever wanted to make
a perfect commodity, and that's why gold is used. Now, if you didn't use gold, well, on the same note, okay, here's a silver maple leaf and a gold maple leaf from the Royal Canadian Mint, right? Mm-hmm. So this is 1 ounce of gold. It's smaller because it's heavier. This is 1 ounce of silver. In the earth, the historical monetary ratio was 15 ounces of silver would get you 1 ounce of gold. Now it's out of whack. It's somewhere 80 or 90 to 1 because silver is kind of manipulated down. It shouldn't be that cheap in relation to gold.
Right.
So that's why I put a higher value today in silver.
So you think silver should be worth a lot more than it is?
Right now in relation to gold, because there's a historical monetary ratio of about 15 to 1, and actually how it comes out of the earth with all the miners on the planet is an 8 to 1 ratio. So for every 8 ounces of silver that comes out, 1 ounce of gold comes out, yet the price doesn't reflect the value and the rarity. So it's literally the price is 80 or 90 to 1 in a ratio. So if you're looking to buy, what would you buy, gold or silver? My recommendation, because of the manipulation and the current price doesn't reflect the value, get some silver. So
I'd like to see the numbers because I've seen that all of the gold on the planet will likely be mined in the 2030s, at least the known reserves. Right now they say that 200,000 tons, I believe 200,000 tons has been mined, and there's 250,000 known tons that could possibly be mined. So we have 50,000 tons left. Gold production peaked in 2019. I don't know if the case is true for silver. I know there's the common trope that there's more gold above ground than silver because silver is used in industry and it's processed and it's sitting in junkyards all over the world. What's your take on what we could maybe expect if this gold precious metal scarcity is true and there's not these big reserves that have yet to be discovered, like in Uganda? Apparently there's a big reserve of gold.
So they say.
Yeah, so they say, yeah.
I mean, it's about rarity. What gives something value is its rarity. So if all of a sudden I think we mined all the gold and I think we mined all the silver, then the above ground bullion ounce, it becomes more rare and more desirable, right? So the price go up. If they find a big, massive deposit of gold somehow that, you know, maybe the price of gold goes down because it floods the market with cheap gold, right? But overall, for how big the market is, gold and silver have been money for thousands of years. I don't think that's going to happen. It's relatively stable and a store of value. So that's another thing. When we started, you defined what is money. Well, money has a few properties that are very important. So money is a unit of account, a medium of exchange, and a store of value. Whereas currency, like fiat currency that isn't backed by money anymore, a currency isn't a store of value. It's just a medium of exchange and a unit of account. So this is 20 Canadian dollars, right? We can kind of, how much is that sandwich? How much is that car, right? We can go off of that, but this is not a store of value because of the devaluation of the currencies, aka inflation.
And largely due to the fractional reserve system, because what you have here is a silver certificate. So there was a time when the bank had to have the same amount of precious metal as they lent out in the system. But then they changed all that early in the 20th century where they said, okay, you guys can lend out more than you have.
Yeah.
And that's when this ceased to be a direct one-to-one.
That's right. So that piece of paper is a silver certificate.
And maybe we should just distinguish, this is a Federal Reserve note, this is a silver certificate, right? They look the same, but one is much older.
Yeah, so the silver certificate technically isn't money, it's an IOU for money. So that's payable $1 in silver, payable to the bearer on demand, is what it says on it.
Yeah.
So, and the reason for this is because, well, here's 10 ounces of silver. Like, try carrying 10 of those in your pocket around, or would you rather carry 100 little
Yes.
things in a wallet? It's for convenience.
Yeah.
But the IOU, and then both bills look the same, so they kind of fooled everyone, and everybody for some reason went along with it.
Yeah.
And now this buys you, or is backed by nothing,
Yeah.
except the faith and credit of the issuing central bank and government, which I'm surprised people have faith and credit in still.
Well, it appears that the governments are insolvent, but they're trying to keep all the balls in the air for the time being. We'll see how long they can do that for. It appears as though the air is deflating from the bubble as we speak, as evidenced in the price of gold and the banking system collapsing. I think this may be foreshadowing. You have a Zimbabwe $10 trillion bill.
That's right. Yeah.
What can we learn from this?
Well, it has the same value as this one, the $1 US one.
Ah, interesting. So
10 trillion and one. Here's $1 million one from. It's a novelty. This isn't a real one. But like off of, I don't know who gave this to me, but this is $1 million and this is $1 and this. They're all pieces of paper. You can all use a pen and write something on them as like a memo, but they don't have any.
you can use it as toilet paper.
Yeah.
After the apocalypse.
Yeah, the Canadian one sucked for us.
Okay. Yeah, they're too slippery. Way too slippery.
Yeah, but
Well,
I'd say just trade this trash for like toilet paper has a purpose. So
Right.
if you have room to stock toilet paper, that's another way to protect yourself from them devaluing this constantly. So this is a $1 US, right?
Yeah.
And it would take, I have the Canadian dollar written up, but that $1 US, you need about 14 or 15 of those to buy one Canadian real dollar, the silver, 80% silver dollar. Well, since we're on the $1 note, they had silver certificates, but this is These are the Morgan silver dollars. So this is what people carried in their pocket, and the U.S. currency is 90% silver. About 1964 and previous. 1964, they went off real money. But the Morgan silver dollar and
there was a time when this could have bought you, like, it's a dollar. So in people's minds are saying, oh, what could I buy with a dollar? But there was a time when this was worth this could get you like $50 worth of stuff or something, right?
Well, in the USA, they had slight deflation for the 100-year century of the 1800s to 1900.
Right.
Because they had real money. Now that we have fake money, during the last few years, I think the U.S. government printed 40% of all dollars in the history of the United States from 1776 in 1 year. 40%. That's gonna. I don't know what a thing of rice or smoothies is gonna be worth soon, but
it's gonna find its way into commodities.
Yeah. But when you have real money, then you have ever so slight deflation, really, or no inflation, because it's a commodity. They can't print these into oblivion and devalue them all the time. So I'm an advocate for real money, and if they're not going to do it, then you can learn to be your own central bank a little bit and stack some silver and learn about this type of stuff.
Yeah. And when we talk as preppers about utility of precious metals in a post-SHTF environment, post-collapse environment, obviously both, like all of these could have some potential utility. As you guys can see on the table here, we got some barter items, we got our funny money, we got some coins, and then we have our silver. I've always thought of silver as being the more useful one in terms of actual one-to-one exchange, and gold being more of a store of value. So
that's right. Just because of the valuation, like it'll be hard for you to buy a sandwich with
gold.
Yeah, because
unless you have this combi bar stuff, but this comes at such a high premium that not a lot of people are,
Exactly. So the smaller you get, the higher the premium. So that little Val combi would have a high premium over spot. And then these have a higher premium.
These have a very high premium.
And copper is also very high premium. So although this is a wonderful idea, and I love it, it's paper gold, but the premium's too high. But that's why we have silver, because if something's too expensive for gold, or that's what they literally did, governments back when we had real money, or central banks. Like you could store this, and this actually has a denomination on it. It says $50. So that's actually with our government's worth $50. And an ounce of silver has a $5 denomination on it. So this is technically $5 in Canada, even though its silver content is, 30-something dollars now to buy this.
Yeah, its value is trapped in time when things were, when that was worth $5.
That's right.
It could buy you $5 worth of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But instead of fractional gold that has a high premium, then you go to silver, and then smaller denominated silver. So my favorite thing is what's called junk silver, is the slang, but it's constitutional money. So in the U.S., you've got some over there. You've got some Morgan dollars. This is a peace dollar. The half dollar in the U.S., and then some Mercury dimes. So all of these have 90% silver content in. 10 dimes has the same silver content as one Morgan silver dollar. So for divisibility, from a preparedness standpoint, if we're going to do hyperinflation or barterability,
you'd have to know that though, right? Like there's not going to be a lot of people who trust and know. Like you're going to have to explain to them. As much as I like this idea of denomination, myself personally, like I think the majority of people are going to recognize something like this because it says right on it 999 silver, United States of America. So my only hesitancy with getting on the junk silver train is it's not 100, unless you have one of those machines, it's not 100% verifiable that what you're getting is what they're saying, right?
Well, I'll counteract that directly, that these are Canadian dimes, and you have the Mercury US dimes over there.
Yeah.
These have such a small value, it's not worth anybody's time to try to counterfeit. What they're going to try to counterfeit is a bullion and fool somebody like that. there's a lot of profit in trying to counterfeit gold. Like certain gold bars, people try to counterfeit. You got to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
This is something I don't think has ever been counterfeited. Low denomination silver. So on the other hand, that's very, very trustworthy over bullion. So just to counteract that.
Okay. All right. I'll think of something witty after this video to come back at you.
I didn't know what you were dealing with.
Well, I mean, the problem though is with that is that you're going to need a lot of dimes to transact, and I just don't think that there's enough out there to facilitate large, like enough meaningful commerce. You know, that you would need a larger denomination. So eventually, you're getting into like a bigger, you know, whether it's even these like older dollars or whatever it might be, but. You know, I mean, that's a lot of dimes to go to town and, you know, go to Barter Town and buy your week's worth of ammo and stuff.
Well, one of those dimes is going to buy you quite a bit more than you think. A Mercury dime or a Roosevelt dime is pre-1964 until they took this money out of the currency. But one of those is $2.22 Canadian. So that's almost your lowest denomination silver. So if a Tim Hortons coffee costs more than that now. But when all this fake stuff blows up and we are extremely high inflation or hyperinflation, then these are going to be worth more. You'll be able to buy.
But how many of these are there in circulation? Like, how many could there possibly be?
Well, there is a lot out there.
Not enough to facilitate meaningful commerce on a large scale, though.
Yeah, I guess so. Well,
I think the concept is good to have a smaller denomination, but I would be. I don't know if there's going to. Well, I guess it depends on how many people survive. Right? There's going to be a lot of people who maybe don't quite make it and aren't requiring. That's the only one. That's one of the drawbacks with metals is that there has to be enough to transact with.
Well, yeah. So if everybody all of us and precious metals literally account for, I think it's 0.5% of all investments by like people on the planet, which is so tiny. Because for me, it's real money.
Yeah.
But this will work, but instead of this Canadian 80% dime being worth $1.84, maybe this is worth $100. And then all of a sudden the value came up that, hey, well, if I bought this for $1.84, now I can get $100 for it. I'll probably part with some, I might, and then it gets distributed around. But all this stuff, if it became mass produced, the price go up.
Yeah.
If it becomes like that, but you're right. Gold, like maybe this goes from $2,600 to $100,000 or more, and this goes from $30 to $3,000. Then what do you go? Well, what are some other things we have? We've got a nickel, like an actual nickel. You can go buy or find yourself a roll of nickels. And that's lower denomination. And then maybe the copper pennies, maybe 1 penny.
So what would you?
Tim Hortons coffee.
What would you actually like? Could you foresee us actually reverting to a system where we use something like this, though, or are you just getting this for melt value?
Just for melt value and almost a teaching tool, to have because a bank box of pennies, like it weighs